Hello and welcome to another cooking demo during the COVID pandemic. My name is Michelle. I'm the dietitian here at the Cancer Center. And usually I do cooking demos for everyone, but of course as we can't have that right now, I thought I would just share another recipe with you. Today we are going to be making a shrimp and zucchini noodle dish topped with a homemade pesto. So I'm excited about this dish. One, because it's super easy, you can pull it together in just a flash, and two, because the homemade pesto really makes this dish. It's what brings a ton of flavor, and it's also kind of fun to make, and it's nice to know how to make a condiment like pesto yourself. Of course, you can use a jarred pesto, that's totally fine, but this is more fun, at least in my book. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out with making our zucchini noodles. So you can also buy the zucchini noodles already spiralized, and what that means is just that they've been sort of turned into like string shapes, and many grocery stores do actually sell these packaged. I have a device that's called a spiralizer. This is just one version of it. It has a blade in there, and I'll show you what it looks like when we're using it. So either you get the zucchini noodles already done or you do them yourself. Either way, it's really easy. So you just want to take the end off the zucchini. It's nice to have this little stem bit still available for you to hold on to while you're using your spiralizer. And very simple, it's like a pencil sharpener. So you put the zucchini in and then you just start twisting. And once you see the noodles coming out here and they're sort of the length that you'd want to have on your plate, you just tug them off. So, and then just keep on twisting. So that way you don't end up with, 3-foot long zucchini noodles that, you have to play Lady and the Tramp with. So yeah, very simple, very minimal effort. This device I got at TJ Maxx, I think. The brand is OXO, O-X-O. It was under $15. So they're not a huge investment, so. And you can do more than zucchini with these if you wanted. I have not experimented with other squashes, like butternut squash, though I know you can find those noodles in the supermarket. So it looks like I have some homework. So as you can see, we're getting this core out of the zucchini. Now that's the center where all the seeds are, and that's kind of the mushiest. And I choose small zucchini so that we really get all that nice firm flesh that's around the outside. You can use the core if you want to. I choose not to. I find it gets a little, I feel like it just gets a little soggy in the pan when we cook them. So that's what you're left with. Again, you could use this if you want, and that's very easy how to spiralize a zucchini. So you got your noodles. So basically then how we cook them over really low heat in a pan. I have a non-stick pan here. I am going to not add any oil because I actually want the water to leach out. So zucchini is a very high water vegetable, and I want some of the water to come out because that will soften up the zucchini. So I'm going to get my burner on here and put a little bit of salt on the zucchini noodles. What that will do is that will just help the water come out a little bit, and then it will simmer and cook itself sort of in its own liquid. And while that's cooking, we'll make our pesto. So the pan still needs to heat up a little bit, but I'm going to be putting the noodles in, and you really do this dish by sound. So when the water comes out of the zucchini, it's going to start to bubble. So you'll hear that sizzling, that boiling, and at that point in time you want to be stirring through, and I love a good pair of tongs for this. That also helps break up the zucchini so it's not all clumped together, and that really gets that like fluffy pasta look to it. So we've got this going. Now moving on to our pesto. So this pesto, instead of using the traditional pine nuts, which are really expensive, I'm using walnuts. I think that the texture's practically the same. I like the flavor. They're more available. You can get them in pretty much any grocery store. So, and the recipe will be accompanying this, so you don't need to memorize this, but I have 2/3 of a cup of olive oil. This is about almost 2 cups of basil, 1/2 cup of walnuts. We're going to use 1/2 cup of Parmesan, or 2 ounces grated, 1 lemon, and 2 teaspoons of garlic. So very simple. We're gonna get it going in the food processor. So we've got our walnuts, our basil, fresh from my garden, and what I'm going to do with the lemon, so this is something that I really enjoy doing. When I'm using a lemon, I love zesting it. So I wash it, and then I love zesting it and using the juice. And what that does is it just increases the lemony flavor, which I think is delicious. What I did just there is soften the lemon up. We're going to have a good amount of juice from it. And then just quickly zest it in here. This will really increase the freshness, which is one of the great things about making your own pesto, is that it's really going to taste super, super fresh. And of course, that's what we want these summer days with good produce coming out of the garden. So we've zested it, and then we're just going to use the juice. So I'm putting all of the ingredients except the olive oil into the base of the food processor. And then while I'm processing it, while I'm running the food processor, I'm going to drizzle the olive oil in. Now when you have an acid, like the lemon juice, and you're mixing an oil, normally they separate. So I know last time we talked about using mustard to emulsify. What we're going to use here is actually speed. So moving the sort of the water ingredients through at a high speed and then adding a trickle of oil in will actually make it emulsify, and then you get that nice pesto dressing that's, you know, more solid than sort of all these things floating around in a liquid. So at this point I can hear my noodles sizzling. So what that means is that there's a little bit of boiling water going on at the bottom, so I'm just going to flip them around. And hopefully you can see the ones that are starting to cook are starting to turn bright green like that. And that's what we want. So we want them to turn nice and bright green, and basically you turn them over and then they stop sizzling, and then you stop stirring. Well, there they go again. But yeah, this is just going to be a quick little cook on them. I really like using this jarred garlic. It's very convenient. You don't have to bother about all the garlic little cloves, which I absolutely hate peeling, and you get all the flavor. So now for a Parmesan, and then we'll be ready to make the pesto. So you can, of course, get the Parmesan that comes in a little container that's already grated. This one was a better deal, price per pound, so this is the one I went with. So I'm truly just eyeballing that. That looks like it's about 2 ounces. When I'm looking down into my food processor, that looks like a fluffy half cup of the Parmesan cheese. And again, you know, this is a condiment. It's very forgiving. We're not talking about baking where everything needs to be precise or you get, you know, a big mess. Might still get a big mess. You never know. So we're gonna give this one another stir and then make some noise. So if you're listening to this on headphones, just be aware that the food processor is gonna make a lot of noise. You might wanna just turn the volume down. All right, ready? I did forget to add the salt and pepper, so I am going to add that right now, and I can actually show you sort of what we have here. So in here we've got our pesto, and you can see it's fairly thick, so it hasn't split, and that's why the pouring the oil in slowly. So now, ideally, I would have a smaller food processor so this wouldn't be so spread out at the bottom. This processor is a little bit too big for what we're doing here, but that's all right. So if you have a smaller processor, don't feel shy about using it. All right, so there we have our pesto. So the noodles here, they're quite, they're not holding their shape anymore, so they're done. So what we're going to do is take them out, and I'm going to put the shrimp in to just cook through, well, to heat through. The shrimp are already cooked, but I just want to make sure that they're heated all the way through. You can absolutely use raw shrimp. I just chose not to. These were a good deal, and of course a lot easier to do up in short order. I am going to add just a little bit of olive oil to these. I don't want them to stick. So the shrimp are just going to heat through, and in the meantime, I'm going to get our pesto set. Reusing the olive oil container, no need to make another dish if we're just going to dress our noodles. So something that's interesting about pesto, so we used basil today. You can use a lot of really great herbs, and you can use other greens as well. So sometimes recipes will call for spinach or maybe some kale or other herbs, and that's absolutely fine. It's just kind of a classic recipe that takes some fresh herbs, some nuts, some oil, Parmesan cheese, and blends it together. And then the variations are endless. You can have spicy pesto, you can have really, feta cheesy pesto. It's really, your imagination is the limit. So we didn't need all the pesto. That's fine. It keeps. You can keep it opened in a jar, I would say probably 2 weeks, and then you should toss it 10 to 14 days because it's fresh. But with things like the garlic and the lemon juice in it, those are natural preservatives basically, and they help keep it fresh if it lasts that long. So I'm actually going to toss this in with the shrimp. We're going to toss it all together, and then our dish will be done. So if you have any questions about this cooking demo or other cooking demos, or you want to see me use particular ingredients, there will be contact information along with the recipe, and you can always let me know what you think. So a very simple way to eat a lot of vegetables, and it's a great source of protein as well. Super quick. So I hope you have fun.